Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm a world traveler. I've been to 144 countries. I've been to Ukraine, I've been to Russia, I've been to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Moldova, and the majority of the ex-Soviet Union countries. You can actually see I'm wearing this Ukrainian flag color today. So today I want to talk about my 2 cents on Russia's invasion into Ukraine from a world traveler's point of view. Who's the real loser in this war? What do you think? I don't think the loser is Ukrainian government. So let's discuss. As most of you guys know, I'm currently living in Singapore, so it's easier for me to make a comparison among these 3 countries, Russia, Ukraine, and Singapore. So all these countries required a civilian to serve compulsory military services, and they imposed this to boost up their army forces. But are these results turning out to be the same for all these 3 countries? And recently, Ukrainian government even put up another restriction, which is to ban the men of age of 18 to 60 years old from leaving the country. So what's actually going on between Ukraine and Russia? I guess a lot of people don't really understand the whole situation. So the whole thing starts with Ukraine wanting to join NATO. So what is NATO? NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that was established in 1949. It's an international alliance that consists of 30 member states from Europe, North America, and Asia. There's a very unique clause in the NATO treaty. In Article 5, it states that if an armed attack occurs against one of the member states, it shall be considered as attack against all members, and other members shall assist the attack member with armed forces if necessary. So this is very interesting. If Ukraine was admitted into this alliance, if in the future Russia attacks Ukraine, all these 30 members have to help Ukraine. But not yet. Ukraine is not part of the NATO at this point. And then there's this article published by Vox on February 23rd, 2022. It says that Putin believes that Ukraine is an illegitimate country that exists on land that's historically and rightfully Russian. Ukraine actually never had the stable traditions of real statehood, as he puts it. And he also said Ukraine is not just a neighboring country for us, it is an inalienable part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space. He said, per Kremlin's official translation, since time immemorial, the people living in the southwest of what historically been Russian and have called themselves Russians. So in short, Russia doesn't really like the idea that Ukraine wants to join NATO, so that's the trigger of the whole situation. So both Singapore and Ukraine pose restriction to grow their forces, but I think if Singapore imposes banning people from leaving the country, most people would be happy to listen to the order because they enjoy living inside the country, which we kind of seen this situation during COVID-19 in a different form, where Singapore closed their border for a couple of years before they just opening up for travel again. But when Ukraine is banning their people from leaving the country, I'm not sure if this is the best thing for their people, because in the end of the day, their citizens just want to live a good and peaceful life. And yes, by nature, government is formed in a way that they are there to represent their people. But there's something that the Russian government wants, which may not always represent their Russian people. The same thing for Ukraine. There's something that the Ukrainian government wants, which may not always represent what their local people want. So what's the difference between Ukraine is closing the border versus if Singapore is doing it? First thing, there's no neighboring country next to Singapore that is overpowering Singapore, but Ukraine got Russia next door, and Russia is one of the only 9 countries in the world with nuclear weapons. And among all these 9 countries, Russia possesses almost half of the whole world's nuclear power, ranking number 1 in the world. They are powerful. Secondly, Singapore usually takes a very neutral position, so a lot of people call Singapore as a Switzerland of Asia. They are trying to create this harmonious relationship with other countries within Southeast Asia. So if you remember a couple years ago when Trump was meeting the president of North Korea, they picked Singapore to be the meeting spot because that's a neutral spot for all these countries to have political meetings at. So people don't pick fights against Singapore, but when Ukraine is trying to join NATO, Russia thinks that they're trying to alliance with the West to go against Russia. And the third thing is, of course, GDP. They're huge differences in the GDP among these countries. So in Singapore, the GDP last year was 380 billion, Ukraine is 165 billion, and Russia is 1.7 trillion. So if you can look at the economic power, this country is not quite equal, and that also causes differences to impose the same rule among these countries. And of course, these are not the only countries in the whole world that require their citizens to serve compulsory military services. There's also other countries and territories that require the same, such as South Korea, Taiwan, and now there's also some trending topic increasing the tension between mainland China and Taiwan as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Ukraine a lot. It's one of my favorite countries in East Europe. I was very impressed with their amazing architecture, St. Michael's and St. Sophia's Cathedral with these golden domes. It's truly beautiful. And my great friend from my Latin dance class in Singapore is also from Ukraine. She was in one of my previous videos. Ukrainians are great people and have great values. But in fact, Ukraine is not really getting any support from external. You know, everyone is posting on social media and Instagram that they feel so bad and sad about Ukraine, but no one is really going there to fight for the war for Ukraine. Including myself, I'm still sitting here, so there's just so much support that we can provide. We can all support Ukraine from our heart, but Ukraine still needs some physical and actual support. Russia is good friends with China, so China is not going to help Ukraine in any way. And the only country that would most likely help Ukraine is US. But US is not doing anything right now. Europe doesn't usually make the move until they see US make the moves first. But for now, the only thing that the US is trying to help is to put Putin into their sanction list. But how is it going to help? Ukraine is advocating to Tim Cook to block Russia on the Apple Store, but that is just to drag down their economy. In the end of the day, none of these sanctions or blocking Russia on the Apple Store is going to help much, in my opinion. So who's the real loser in this war? Russia is fighting for its ego by sending forces to attack Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting to strengthen its government power by banning 18 to 60 years old men from leaving the country, even if the people there may actually want to leave the country for a better life. It doesn't seem to me that either of them is losing, not just yet. In fact, Ukrainian President Zelensky got an offer from US to evacuate him, but he declined. He chose to defend his country on the street with his army. To me, his spirit already won. What do you think? So who's actually feeling all these impacts and pains? I'm mostly empathetic about Ukrainian local people because they are the ones who's really feeling the pains. So as of today, February 27, 198 people were killed, including 3 children, and more than 1,000 people injured. Maybe by the time that you guys are watching this video, the number could have gone up even more. And there are a lot of Ukrainians are hiding underground, in subways, in their basements. My Ukrainian friend in Singapore is also very worried about her family there. Some people call this World War III. So far, it's restricted in this territory, but who knows what's going to happen next. Do you guys think it's going to expand or contain in this area? What's your view on this? Do share your comment below. And I hope you enjoyed this sharing, and do remember to give a thumb up and subscribe to my channel and share this video with social media and your friends and let them discuss with us together. Recently, YouTube launched a new feature where you can join the membership of my channel to get access to exclusive perks where you can send emoji, get my reply first, and also have a chance to meet up with me. So if you want to support my channel further, do join my membership on YouTube or my Patreon. I do organize this monthly live chat, sometimes online, but this month I'm actually doing this meetup with my Patreons and members in person in Singapore. So welcome to join us for the next meetup. That's all for now, and see you at the comment section. We can all support Ukraine We can all support Ukraine spiritually. My Ukrainian friends in Singapore is also very worried about because that's a very neutral spot for all these countries to have that sort of because that's a very neutral spot for this country to have a political meeting at.